Okay, so we have some more questions from the YouTube channel. So this is a question from one of the users. How do you distribute it amongst the content creators? How do you measure it?
Okay, I'm working on another project right now that Kyle from Coin Talk and I have been talking about for, I don't know, the last couple of months, and that I first proposed back, I think, in August of last year when I was talking about my cryptocurrency ecosystem idea. Basically, we're working on a project called BitSplit, and Nick, who's developing the new LTB website, is also working on that and just got a prototype working that basically lets you say, okay, here's this address is for Adam. This has 10% that's going to go to it. This address is for Matt. It has 15% that's going to go to it. And you basically can set up arbitrary percentages and how a given payment should be split. And then it creates an address from that routes the value to all of those different addresses every time value is given to that address. So that actually is what we're going to be doing, is each show that's submitted is going to have an address that's submitted along with it that will have all the content creators who contributed built into that address. Then when we pay that one, it'll pay out to everybody, is currently the thought. Otherwise, it's going to have to be some sort of macro.
So will every channel or every show have the same value added in that distribution model, or will it depend basically on how many views that show is pulling into the network? Or
we haven't talked about the metrics for incentivized stuff yet. Right now, there are two models for content creators. Actually, let me back up real quick. First thing, the LTB network is only going to do distributions of the currency to shows and blogs. So that means that if you write an article, you're not actually going to get paid by me. If you write an article and the article gets picked up on the LTB blog, you'll get paid by the person who in LTBcoin, by the person who's running the LTBcoin blog and who decided that your piece was a good one to run. And the way that that'll happen is, first off, they will essentially, there's going to be a market for content is really what we're creating, where when you create a piece of content, you'll say, and this is the price that I would like for it, and then this is how long after someone commits to it I want to wait and see if anybody else is going to make me a better offer. So you could say, okay, I'm going to charge 100 LTB coins for this piece of content for whoever wants it, and then wait 6 hours after that. And so if somebody comes along after that, they can make a higher bid, and then that essentially gives them the right. So what we want to have is the ability for everything to be fixed price, but also to have the ability to be competitively bid upon in LTBcoin if it's something that more than one person wants. You want the market wherever possible to value these things. Matt, remind me of what the actual question was, because I know I went off on a tangent.
It's so easy to do. How do you distribute it amongst content creators? How do we measure that distribution?
Right. Okay, so there are two types of measurements that we're doing for this. One is called proof of quality, and proof of quality means you've been published. If you've been published on the LTB network, if your piece of content has been published on the LTB network, then you should be getting a part of that content distribution. So if there are 10 pieces of content that are released over the course of a week, which is probably the time period that we'll be doing this in, every week we'll do the payment cycle.
So maybe real quick, one of the pressing questions I think the community has is, how are the percentages going to be assigned? And I know we've talked about this, and it's kind of still some gray area right now.
Yeah.
So maybe you can dive into some more detail.
Yeah. There isn't a ton of detail right now. It's going to be, the most is going to go to content creation, somewhere in the 50 to 60% range.
Okay.
Somewhere in the 25 to 35% range, we'll go to the audience, and then somewhere in the 10 to 15% range is going to wind up going to the platform, and is going to pay for core roles and stuff like that. We have to have a CFO and CTO, stuff like that. And again, that'll be part of a weekly distribution that comes out, and it's not like people are going to get paid an incredible amount of LTB coin. It's going to be, again, part of this pegged process, and then whatever's left over from that is going to wind up in bounties for improving the platform and things like that. So the goal here is to try and keep the structure very efficient, and to try and make sure that we're pointing the vast majority of our resources at the problems we actually want to incentivize the solution to, which in this case is how to equitably create content and invest people in the success of that content moving forward, and to make it so that people can have, the reason why we're not doing something like LTBcoin with just the Let's Talk Bitcoin show is because what if we have a bad week? What if we have, what if we have a bad month? Then the whole currency is reliant on our continued success. Whereas the more you can spread it out amongst different things, you essentially get, a self-fulfilling cycle where somebody's bad week is another person's good week, and so the whole thing evens out, and you get these nice synergies at times too. So, again, it's funny, we're talking about this decentralized thing, but we're trying to create a structure for getting big within a decentralized way, and that's hard.
Yes. Okay, so next question. I'm just going to go ahead and capture everybody's question. So anybody in the Google Hangout who has a question, please add your question to the chat log, and then I'm going to be pulling questions from YouTube over. So the next question is there a wallet?
Yeah, so the wallet is basically what we're waiting on right now. Counterparty is currently in a testing phase. There's a multi-wallet, it's a web wallet. You can go to counterparty.co.
Yeah, and it's actually a beautifully designed wallet so far, given how early it is in its stage.
One of the advantages of using something like Counterparty is that because it is built on the Bitcoin protocol, these multi-wallets essentially will let you have Bitcoin, XCP, which is the native currency of Counterparty, and then LTBcoin, as well as any other user-created asset like LTBcoin that is created on top of Counterparty. So I think that these multi-wallets, again, right now they're just one platform. Like you can't get Mastercoin assets onto this wallet, but that is a problem that's going to be solved fairly quickly, I think. I think that all of these, even though they're not technically compatible, are going to be interoperable pretty soon, and the wallets will become much easier. This thing where everything has its own Satoshi's client is not going to last for even another couple months. Question, Ruben said, how does Adam imagine the first value will be created for LTBcoin? What we're going to start off with, the first thing that you're actually going to be able to use LTBcoin for is we're going to have monthly to start, and then they're going to get to be more frequent auctions of sponsorship tokens, basically, that will represent 1 month, 30 seconds for 1 month on one show. And we're going to sell a total of 4 of those per 4 LTBcoin. They'll be auctioned off to the essentially highest bidder, and basically we're going to take any sort of sponsors that want to participate in this, even if they're just individuals, so long as they comply with the network standards for sponsors, which basically means that it can't be illegal stuff. It can't be something that we think is a bad product. And, there's the standards that, of the sponsors that we allow on the LTB network are actually fairly strict. But I think, again, that by opening it up to people who are individuals and making it more about patronage than about sponsorship, that's really the direction that I'm interested in going with this, especially initially. I think that initially it's going to be the fans and also the shows within the space. I know that I have an intention with the LTB coins that I earned from from doing Let's Talk Bitcoin. I'm intending to buy some sponsorships on other shows and my projects.
And Adam, maybe you can jump in on what the first week of distribution is going to look like, because I know we've discussed that on the forum.
Yeah, so we're still figuring all this out. If you'd like to join the conversation about it, I really do encourage you to over at the LTBcoin.com forums and and get involved, because I don't I'm like the chief evangelist and the chief user of this thing, but ultimately this is going to be a community project if it's going to be successful, because it's got to be bigger than me. I can't be a central point of failure on this.
Amen.
So I'm not doing the Satoshi thing, which means that everybody just has to be really conscious that if you want to be involved, there are meaningful rewards for you being involved in this. And when we succeed, it's going to be everybody, not me. So that's the different thing about this compared to the projects that I've been working on to this point.
We are Satoshi.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so do you want to dive into next question? I thought Scott had a really good question. We see in the world of Bitcoin a news cycle that is incredibly quick. How do you anticipate solving this problem with LTBcoin, or is the genre of content you're describing not applicable?
Timely content is important, and there's definitely, So I think what's going to happen actually is that we're going to have a couple of layers of filtering, basically, and the filtering is mostly going to be after publication. So before publication, it's basically going to be, like I mentioned, there's not just going to be one blog on LTB. Instead, it's going to be lots and lots of different people running curated blogs that are each branded with their own branding, but that all kind of have the ability to draw from this content pool. And when they publish, they then are entitled to receive a portion of these LTB coins that then lets them get more content.
Sure.
And create this essentially virtuous cycle. So the first level is those people picking stories. So if they see a story that's hot, then chances are pretty good they're going to grab it, especially if it's something that, if that's the type of thing that they do. So I kind of think that this problem is going to solve itself. I don't really want to set hard and fast rules. That's why I'm saying that, like, I want to give people the ability to make everything an auction, but I don't want to require that everybody wait 24 hours. I want to give them the option to be like, all right, this can be an hour-long thing because it's a hot rush, or it can be a 24-hour-long thing because, you know, I'd like to make sure that I maximize my exposure. What we're creating is a set of rules here, and then people are going to choose specifics that work for their particular situation.
Cameron Gray, what happens after 5 years? Will the network hope to be bootstrapped when the market saturates?
Yeah, the market, I'm viewing the bootstrapping period really as 3 years. I think that we will know if we're going to be successful with this by the end of the first year. And I think that it should be pretty obvious. So, you know, the good news is that we can only fail. You know, if we fail, then it's just like 99% of other networks out there. So, you know, I'm actually okay with that, because I think that this is a more important innovation. You know, the model that we're talking about here, where you can essentially take this and bootstrap anything, is so much more important than concept. And I'm fixated on content because that's where I live, but it's really important. So that's kind of what I view. What we're doing here is we are blazing the trail and being the pathfinders and all that jazz, and we get to screw up. And if our hair catches on fire, that's okay, because then other people won't do the same thing that we did. So, yeah, I mean, it's a giant experiment. I think that so long as people go into this knowing that it's a giant experiment, that's why I'm kind of dodging questions like, what do you think it'll be worth at the beginning? I have no idea. It won't be worth anything at the beginning. I mean, like, I guess that's the answer, is that we're going to produce.
Yeah, I mean,
first week of distribution, there'll be like 1 million coins out there, you know, of the 51 million that'll ever be created. And those coins are going to be distributed. Half of them are going to go to the community that is registered on LTBcoin.com. And half of them are going to go to people who have created the content that has brought LTB to the place that we are now. And so essentially that's something else I have to do. If you're interested in going back through every post we've ever made on LTB and figuring out who the author is and figuring out, you know, how much content people provided from each of the individual things, and, you know, like we could basically back pay everybody from this 50% and vest everybody who's ever had anything to do with LTB. And like, it'd probably be a good thing. But like, I keep going back and forth on how much we should be looking back, or if we should just say, okay, clean start right here, moving forward. This is what we're doing. So I don't know. It's, you know, I mean, like, John, this is a question, I guess, that is more applicable to you really than anybody else here. You guys have been doing this show for 2 months. Do you think it's better if we back pay everybody, you know, for the last 9 months, where you guys would be back paid for like a month's worth of material or 6 weeks worth of material? Or do you think it's better to start clean?
No, definitely back pay. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you know, I don't really care. I think Lidge and I are pretty easygoing when it comes to that, because we're true believers in LTB and Adam B. Levine, and I mean that sincerely. You know, man, I think it's hard to say. I mean, I think you can throw everybody a little bone, but not go all the way back. You know, do a little bit of that to say, hey, we're glad that you've been with us from the beginning, or, you know, not from the beginning, obviously, but, you know, from the time that you've been there, we're going to give you a little something. But I think people who are, you know, interested in doing this, like Lidge and I are, for Let's Talk Bitcoin, I mean, for Bitcoins and Gravy, we're interested in it for a variety of reasons. And this just seems to us like an extra perk that's coming along and an extra opportunity for us. So we're just happy to be along for the ride, to be honest with you.
Well, that's great. That's the primary point of stress that I have on this project, is that I feel like I kind of set expectations with people, because we were really successful in January and November and December with LTB, when the price was way up and everybody was spending lots of money because they all felt like they were rich. But, you know, it's kind of as soon as we brought on 6 new shows and have another 5 in the wings, suddenly everything is getting a little bit tighter. Yeah, I mean, that's my primary concern, is I just want to make sure that people aren't feeling like I misled them, because this is where I think we're going to really make the difference in the medium term.
Could I just jump in and ask a question? What's the difference between this and a stock? You know, calling everything a coin can get confusing. You know, there's exchanges called this coin, and there's these coins, and there's. Is this not really more of an IPO, more of a public offering?
No, it's not really, because it's not legally binding. This is the thing.
It's more of a token.
Right. There's no legal obligation here. What we're doing, and again, we're not selling them, we're giving them away. So this is more akin to us saying, rather than paying our employees with dollars, we're going to pay them with store credit. And they can choose to keep that store credit and use it with us, or they can choose to sell it to somebody who values it, you know, in a way that they appreciate. But it's not, it has none of the characteristics of stock, besides the fact that it is a token that we find valuable. But I mean,
But
like, you
so-
can't
I mean,
spend
so is-
Apple stock with Apple.
But like, say for instance, a startup might be cash poor, and a startup could, like ourselves, Voltora, we could then, as we're building, we could say, hey, we have these a pre-mined or a bunch of these things, because mining's not really the issue. It's more about, here's these coins with a public ledger, and you get 50% of them, or 10%, or 1%, or whatever it is. That then it's sort of a reverse. Even though there's no value, but the more that we put in, then we build the value onto these tokens. But tokens, coins,
A lot of the projects
shares,
that I'm working on
whatever
right
you
now are
call
built around this concept. I completely agree with you. The difference just is that in our particular case, it really doesn't look like stock. In your case, where you're talking about a startup, and again, like I have other projects I've been involved in where they really are more like startups, and it's being used instead of equity as a vehicle for stake. And so I think that they make a ton of sense to be used in that context. I think that, they're going to replace stock in a lot of situations like that, especially for startups, just because, from a legal standpoint, it looks like it's actually pretty simple. Like, don't convert them into dollars, and it's just a token.
And it would get around a whole lot of legal mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, it might not all, but right now it seems like the opportunity is there if you wanted to start something like that.
Yeah, and I kind of envision this thing like a machine. And you're basically adding tokens into different parts of the machine, and it basically causes this engine to start turning. And hopefully at the end of 5 years, we figured out the ways and means of actually being able to continuously distribute this currency within the system that basically benefits everybody and keeps that engine spinning and growing.
CryptoKit is the world's first Chrome browser Bitcoin wallet. It's the easiest, fastest Bitcoin wallet payment system. With a simple one-click install, it takes just seconds to get your wallet set up. And because CryptoKit finds the address and payment for you, there's no more fussing around or tab switching. CryptoKit is more than just a wallet. It comes with a preloaded PGP encrypted social network, news feeds from Reddit and Google, and up-to-date charts from exchanges. Finally, CryptoKit Directory allows you to make two-click payments with any of the BitPay merchants. Once you install CryptoKit, you won't need anything else. For more information or to download CryptoKit, visit CryptoKit.com.